What's happening, y'all? Welcome back to Cover, where we explore God's Word literally from cover to cover. Today we're looking at a guy named Job. How do you feel about suffering? When I say the word suffering or suffer, what are the things that pops into your mind? Maybe you think of bad things that happen to you. Maybe you think of pain. I think a lot of times, if we're honest with ourselves, we see suffering simply in a negative light. We only see it as something that is negative. But what if I told you that it was something that could be good? If you look at this guy Job in the Old Testament, you see that Job it just kind of faces all kinds of trials in a very short amount of time. He's going to lose a lot of his family members. He's going to lose a lot of his livelihood. He's going to lose all kinds of things in a matter of moments, it would seem. And then he kind of goes on this journey of processing all of this and trying to determine, why me? Why is this suffering happening to me? Why am I getting all of this at this time? And it's really hard for Job because Job, we're told, is an upright and blameless guy. And maybe we have the same idea sometimes, where we say, man, I feel like I'm doing a good enough job. Why is all of this stuff happening to me? Why is all this suffering and pain coming my way? I think there are a couple things that we need to focus on when we talk about this idea of suffering. I think so many times we see it as simply bad. I want us to reprogram our brains, reprogram how we think about suffering, and look at it maybe in a positive way. We read in the book of James, for instance, that we should consider it pure joy when we face trials of many kinds. And he even tells us why, because it strengthens our faith. So that's the first thing I want us to reprogram our mind to think about suffering, that it can produce a good thing, that being a deeper and stronger faith. But the second thing I want you to focus on today is realizing that sometimes we might not get an answer. Job, if you read through the book of Job, God never tells him directly why Job is going through this suffering. He's actually going to answer Job, and it might seem harsh, but the reality is truth. And that is, he says, Job, where were you when I did this? Where were you when I did that? And essentially throwing it back in Job's face as Job is complaining, and God says, you're not in a position to tell me how to rule the world. You're not in a position to question what happens. I'm God. I determine what happens. I was there when I set the world up, when I created this, when I created that. That was me. You weren't there. You weren't doing these things. And so the second thing we need to remember is that everything is in God's hands. I think sometimes we get just overwhelmed by suffering and by trials and by persecution, and we fail to remember that God's got us. If we're faithful to Him, if we trust in Him, if we believe in Him, God's got us. God's got us. We might go through highs, we might go through lows, mountains and valleys, but God will be there by our side. We need to continue having that faith, continue trusting in Him, and remember that He's got it. He created everything, and He knows what's going on. So the first thing I want you to remember about today, one, suffering is not always a bad thing, and a lot of times it can produce good results. It can lead to a deeper and stronger faith in God. And secondly, remember that God's got us, that He knows what's going on, He's in control, and that we should have faith and trust in Him. Thank you so much for joining us again from Cover to Cover today. See you next time. Hope you have a good day.